What is going on, guys? It's B Rod and Adam from Inside the Locker Room, and today we're going to get into some offensive lineman prospects for the 2026 NFL Draft that's coming up soon in Pittsburgh. And man, this is a great draft for the offensive line, and this class is going to be, amazing, and it's going to be a great selection of players to choose from. And we're going to get into our top linemen here, and I'll start right off the bat, and I think it's a clear consensus number one for most people. Francis Noah coming out of Miami, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he started 42 games in 3 years, for the Miami Hurricanes, and he's only 20 years old. So a lot of production in a short amount of time. He was one of the main reasons why Miami's offensive line was so, successful last year. And I think a point I'll just bring out right off the gate is that, the Titans, the Tennessee Titans, they had the number 4 pick in the NFL draft. And Cam Ward was running for his complete life last year. And he still made flashes, but I think a crazy thing to look at here, and I think I might be hitting the nail on the head with this one, is that, the Titans have the real possibility of pairing Francis Noah with quarterback Cam Ward and give him that protection and, for the next 10 years have their starting offensive, tackle. And, he's a dense tackle at 6'6", 335 pounds. So, just a brute force on the offensive line. And, Adam, I want to know if you agree for your top offensive lineman for the 26th draft here.
I do. I also got Francis Noah out of Miami as my top lineman. I think he's going to already be off the board by the time the Titans pick, though. I will add that. I got him going to the Cardinals at number 3 because they have a pretty good left tackle in Paris Johnson Jr., but they do not have a good right tackle, so he would just pencil in right away as the starting right tackle for the Arizona Cardinals. Like you said, and we both agree, he's the top lineman in the class, plays with exceptional power. He'd really excel in a gap running scheme. So the reason I think he's such a good fit for the Cardinals is because Mike LaFleur just got hired, and he's likely to bring over the same type of gap running scheme that they employed for the Rams. And because of that, I think it's a near lock that he goes 3rd overall to the Cardinals. He might fall to the Titans. If he does, they're getting a gift. And then I can see them going lineman. Because at the moment, I have them going edge, but there's a very good second lineman that we're about to get into that they could take as well. But yeah, Francis Noah out of Miami. I think he's a great pick for the Arizona Cardinals at number 3. Number
Yes,
2.
certainly I was going to say, certainly, the consensus safest, lineman prospect in this draft. But,
Yeah.
some of these other guys can do sort of different things, and they're good at different things. So we'll get into that into a little bit. But who did you have for your second best offensive lineman in the draft?
Second best offensive lineman, that is Spencer Fano or Fano. Not sure exactly what the pronunciation is correctly. I'll get that dialed in. But out of Utah.
Pretty sure it's Fano.
Spencer Fano. Okay, sweet. So he started the past 2 seasons at right tackle for Utah. He is a little bit undersized, but he's light and nimble with his feet, and that allows him to mirror edge rushers really, really well. He had allowed 0 sacks last season and only 1 the year before, so he's really showed that consistency in the passing game. Number one thing he needs to do is add mass to his frame because he's just a hair over 300 pounds right now, so he needs to get a little bit bigger. But I got him going to the Browns. Browns gave up 51 sacks last year, which was 7th most, so he makes sense at the 6th overall pick. Mm-hmm. You were mentioning Titans possibly going O-line, so if Noah was already off the board, they could go Fano as well. But if he's on the board for the Browns, I think the Browns smash that selection, get Shedeur some protection, and give him a fair shake, assuming Shedeur does win the starting job. But yeah, actually might have some protection, and Shedeur actually might be able to have a good season. I know you off air you mentioned wide receiver a little bit for the Browns, but I really like them taking a lineman here just because it's just like you said, with the Titans taking an offensive lineman, you're just going to get that guy that's going to be a dynasty guy for you for like 10 years. So I think the Browns will do that. Whether or not Shedeur ends up being their starter long term, we'll see about that. But lock in that offensive lineman, and then they have another pick later in the first round, so then they could go for a wide receiver or a different offensive player, a skilled player. But who do you got for number 2?
I liked Fano as well coming out of Utah, and he's really good at the run game, of course, and very very quick feet, and that's he uses his size to his advantage, protecting on that offensive line. But for my number two offensive lineman, I'm a little bit higher on this player than I think a lot of other people are. But for my number two offensive lineman, I'm gonna go with Caden Proctor out of Alabama. Just his size alone is just something to look at, and I just feel like he just has a super high ceiling as a protector in the NFL. With his stature at 6'6" and or actually sorry 6'7" at 366 pounds. That just
Big
gives
boy.
you a great, yeah, that just gives you a great starting point to just work off with. And he's really good in pass protection and just provided clean pockets. And Alabama is of course famous for producing these great offensive linemen, and he's just like the main corner stone for that Alabama offensive line. And I think a lot of them are going to be selected in this draft this year for the Crimson Tide. And he played with some pretty good quarterback play with Jalen Milroe a year prior, and then Ty Simpson of this past year. So definitely providing them some cushion, and definitely made their quarterback play better than what it was. So imagine those quarterbacks without the Alabama offensive line. I think that would be a good thing to look at. And I think he could improve on his dropbacks, his size being so big that, sometimes it could sort of, backfire when these edge rushers, use a spin move or, something crazy thrown at him. But I think, technique and sort of that thing could be taught in the NFL. And I just think Caden Proctor is, he might not go in the top 15, but whoever gets him, in the 20s, even in the first round, I think he could go. They're getting a great prospect and a great player. So I'm gonna go with Caden Proctor at number two for me.
Number two, and
I had
Fano.
Fano at number three. Yeah.
Fano at number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Fano, not Fano, Adam. Okay, got it. All right, so then my number 3, this is the last one that I have, so if you got a few more after that, then just go off after that. But the guy that's kind of flying up some people's boards, definitely Field Yates is definitely a huge fan of him. And after doing a little bit of research, I'm a big fan of him as well. But Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. And this is where it gets a little bit dicey because like you already had a different offensive lineman and a different one at number 2, but this is where I think it gets dicey. Who's the third best offensive lineman? But I think Freeling's a guy that's just going to continue to soar as we get further into the process. Just profiles as a plug and play, starting left tackle right away. The one downside is he has not had many career starts. He's only had 18 career starts, but the upside with him is insane. So you're talking about a guy that's 6'7", 315 pounds, and he has 35-inch arms. So, I mean,
Wow.
that's insane. Like, his arms are basically 3 feet long. So he's going to be able to actually, like, ward off those edge rushers and not allow them to get the lower center of gravity and get around them. So I think he's a guy that some people don't know about yet. People that watch a lot of college football, I'm sure they do because he played for Georgia and he did really, really well. But yeah, really rare combination of power, length, projects really highly. Like I said, I think he's going to just keep going up. And only in the limited sample size we do have, he only allowed 2 sacks last season. So for a guy that seemingly is just getting into the mix and really like honing in on his craft, I think once that catches up with his athleticism and size, then he's going to could be off the charts good in the NFL.
Yeah, I love me some Monroe Freely, man, and Mel Kiper has him as sort of his biggest draft riser. A lot of people are saying to pay attention to some Monroe Freeling, and I think he could even go as early as Detroit's pick at number 17, and that might be a little crazy and a little bit of a hot take, but while the team, especially like Detroit, could benefit of going offensive line because outside of Penei Sewell, they had a terribly rated offensive line, especially for the pass protection, and that definitely hurt Detroit's offense a little bit. But they had that all the other firepower with Amon Ra and Gibbs and all of that, of course. But I think Detroit's going to be a team that's going to be looking for an offensive lineman there at 17, and I kind of like Freeling to go to, maybe even the 49ers there, and, Houston picks right after him. So A player that could go in sort of the late 20s, but I think because of, sort of these different kind of scheme fits depending on what teams want to do with their offensive line, I think Monroe Freeling could be, a player that gets selected a lot sooner than we think.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree that he'd be a great fit at 17, especially with the Lions offensive line just getting up there in age a little bit of uncertainty there. Um, he would definitely be a great pick for them, and especially if he didn't have to necessarily start right away.
hmm
Just a guy that could continue to develop, and then when he's ready to go, he's going to be really good.
Yeah, they're saying that Freeling is like just a versatile asset for the offensive line. That he could sort of do a little bit of everything. So, we'll also see, depending on some of these, offensive linemen, not necessarily, the first couple that we talked about, but a theme that we sometimes see in the NFL draft is, a player will come out as a tackle, and maybe, depending on their size or their abilities, a team will move them to guard, or they'll just switch them to the other side. First they'll start on the left side and then go to right. But I think that's, another positive thing that Monfort Freeling has going for them is that, he does a little bit of everything, like I just said. And, as sort of a sleeper offensive lineman, I don't even know if I can call him a sleeper because he's technically the best guard, I think, in this class. I'm going to talk about some Olai Vavenga Iona from Penn State. And when I looked at this guy's tape, I mean, he is quick. And for, a big guy like him protecting Drew Aller, I was just impressed. And I just feel like his pass protection was just very consistent. And he just rarely gave up sacks, like I just mentioned. So watch out for him as well, another player other than Monroe Freeling to shoot up draft boards because, like I just said about all these offensive linemen, they're starting out as tackles. But say, a team just wants a solidified guard, Olai Vavenga would be that player, and I think he could shoot up draft boards.
Love it. Anything else?
I think that recaps our episode, guys. I mean, thank you guys so much for watching our video on our top offensive linemen in the 2026 NFL Draft. And we'll be coming out with a video most likely after the combine, maybe updating some of our thoughts on this. And then we'll also go over for the next video for our NFL Draft series on our NFL Draft Combine reactions. So we'll get to that to all you guys soon. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on your guys' top offensive lineman in the draft. And we will see some big boys in the trenches get drafted in this draft because it's one of the main things, of this 2026 class. So very excited to see that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys again, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Offensive linemen deserve love too.